I'm Ken the Metal Professor. This is Mostly Metal. We're going to take a quick break from Mostly Metal so that I can try out a new little segment of the show I thought about doing. And it's called Ken's Dark Corner. And I'll tell you what it's all about right now. Well, that was my first attempt at making an intro segment for Ken's Dark Corner, and I can't promise that I'm going to stick with the title or even doing this week by week, but here's what I thought. I thought since I have a microphone and I already get to indulge myself for 2 hours every Sunday night playing the music that I love, and on a lot of weeks, as many listeners will know, I also talk about wrestling when I do a part of the show called the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program. This week, I'm not doing any wrestling talks. It was kind of a down week in terms of local activities, and I tend to not talk about the national scene. If I was, I would be talking about All In from last night, but not going to do it. I enjoy indulging my hobbies here on the air, and I thought, one of my other hobbies is horror movies, and I don't really get a lot of opportunity just on a day-to-day basis to talk with people about horror movies, but I watch lots of them. In fact, I watch too many of them, and so I thought, I could introduce a segment onto the show where I give not really a review, but just an overview of one or more movies and possibly recommend them or not. And so that's what I'm going to try out right now in the small number of minutes before the top of the hour. So what I'm going to tell you about is this series of movies called the Bad Ben movies. These are available on Amazon. If you have Amazon Prime Video, then you can watch them for free. There's 4 of them. There is Bad Ben, released in 2016, Steelmanville Road, released in 2017, Badder Ben, The Final Chapter, released in 2017, ultimately misnamed because then there was Bad Ben, The Mandela Effect, released this year in 2018. These are movies in the sort of the found footage genre, although in this particular story world, it's not found footage in the sense that somebody recorded things and then nobody can find these people again and the only thing left is their video. The video is filmed with intent in the story and retained with intent. So it's more just like original or raw footage, not really found. And I don't like the term found footage because back with, when the Blair Witch Project came out, now I'm drawing a blank. There was another one that came out at roughly the same time that kind of got overlooked with the Blair Witch Project movies. But it was, I'll think of it eventually. But it was another movie in the same thematic, recorded footage. The people that made it are no longer can be found. Their footage is the only thing that survives. But since then, people use the technique, but then in the story, the footage hasn't been lost and recovered. It's just always been there, and so have the people that filmed it. So I don't like that term. But anyway, there's 4 movies, and that I named them off in the order that they were released. That is not the story chronology order. So here's how it goes. The movie Bad Ben, the first one that kicked it off, is done by a guy named Nigel Bach, and the movie is all him. He's the only person that appears in the film. He has phone conversations with other people, but he's it. He filmed this in his house, and his own personal house that he actually lives in. And in the story, he has purchased this house with the intent to flip it. He has sunk all of his money into this house that was sold at a sheriff's auction. It's a very nice house in a nice secluded area, and he was able to get it for a really good price. Wonder why. And his intent is to fix it up and then flip it and sell it. So he has no other options in terms of places to live. And as he's in the house, he's put cameras in the rooms and he's going to record his flipping process. And as happens in these movies, strange things begin to happen, such as furniture rearranging itself, funny sounds, etc., etc. And then it builds and it builds and it builds until finally he gets the heck out of there. The second movie was Steelmanville Road. That was the second one that was released, but it was actually a prequel in the storyline where they showed the previous owners of the house and everything that happened to them. And as part of that movie, some of the set pieces that occurred during Bad Ben were explained as to why things were the way they were. So, for example, during the movie Bad Ben, he comes into this house and there are religious artifacts. There's a cross on the wall, a framed print of the Lord's Prayer. There's a huge old Bible on a coffee table, and inside the Bible is what looks like a children's drawing of a family and a monster. The Steelmanville Road movie explains what that picture is and how it got to be where it was. So they sort of tie together like that. And then Badder Ben is the third movie that was released, called The Final Chapter. It sort of wrapped up the original set where, storyline, original owners in Steelmanville Road, then Nigel Bach moves in during Bad Ben, the first released movie. Badder Ben is where there are some paranormal investigators decide to come check out the house, and they actually are able to get Nigel Bach's character to come back and revisit the house, and then things all start up again from there. And then Bad Ben, The Mandela Effect, that was released this year, is a strange add-on. It's almost like he had scripts for his story that he didn't want to dispense with entirely, and so it's sort of a parallel universe setup where you revisit the sequence of events of him coming to the house, having strange things happen, and then eventually leaving the house, except with different twists every time. So it's like the different ways that this could have played out in different universes. If you're into movies like Paranormal Activity, things like that, you may or may not want to check these out. So what's my recommendation? Well, that's a tough one. They're easy to get to because they're on Amazon Prime, right? And they're bad. They're really, really awful movies. The original movie is the best of the bunch, where it's just the Nigel Bach character. He's sort of a lovable curmudgeon. His character is different than normal in the sense that he's sunk his money into this house and he's not leaving, and so he's very resistant. He tells the spirits, "I'm not afraid of you. Do your worst," and stuff like that. He's just not the shrinking violet kind of character, which was refreshing. The other movies, in Steelmanville Road in particular, some of the acting is just atrocious. It's like junior high stage play level acting, if not worse. These movies had no budget to speak of, so the effects are terrible when there are effects. So if in that perspective, no, I can't recommend these movies. But I sort of like the idea of the movies in the sense of what the story was and how it played out and how the movies ended up linking together. And they're short movies. They don't take any more than like an hour and 15 minutes. And so in that sense, if you like these kind of movies and you're willing to go into it just knowing that they're not going to be that great, but maybe there's something worthwhile, then yeah, I guess I can recommend them. If you want a nice double feature, what I would recommend is watch the first Bad Ben movie just to get a flavor of it and see if you do want to experience more, and couple that with another movie on Amazon called Leaving DC. This was another quote-unquote found footage movie. A man moves away from DC to get away from the hubbub of life there to a very, very secluded West Virginia location. And strange things start happening to him while he's in his house. Most of these events are things going on outside the house that he can hear, but he can't explain, and they start getting weirder and weirder. And so both movies, Bad Ben and Leaving DC, are basically a one-person show of a man living alone in a house where strange things are happening and everything is getting recorded on video. So it actually makes a really good pairing. Leaving DC, I think, is a little bit better than Bad Ben, although the ending to Leaving DC is pretty underwhelming. I thought, I'm trying not to spoil things too much, but yeah, so there you go. So if you're into found footage movies, the Bad Ben 4 movies are all available on Amazon Prime. So is Leaving DC. The Bad Ben movies are awful, but maybe you want to watch them anyway. If you're mentally a completist, they're out there. You want to see them anyhow. But they do kind of knit together in an interesting way. And I would like to see what this person could do with a bigger budget, with access to, better actors, etc. Because some of the script was actually, particularly in the sequel film Bad or Ben, some of the dialogue was pulled off badly in the way the characters did it, but within the hands of a more adept director and better actors, it might have actually been really funny in places. And so I don't want to totally write them off. I appreciated the effort. And so all these movies are screaming on Amazon Prime. Ha ha ha. So maybe next week I can revisit with you the Puppet Master movies, because I've been watching a whole bunch of those recently. I bought at Walmart a DVD compendium of the first 9 Puppet Master movies from Full Moon, and I've watched the first 7 so far. So by next week I certainly will have completed the whole set, and maybe I'll give you a quick rundown. So I hope you enjoy horror as much as I like, and if you end up watching Bad Ben and you want to yell at me for making you waste your time, remember, I didn't really recommend them wholeheartedly. I'm just saying, if you have the time and you like this kind of movie, go ahead, and just for the experience and to see. It's better to watch them and know than to not watch them and wonder if you would have liked them, I guess. So that's the end of Ken's Dark Corner. I'm also going to try to come up with a better name for this segment. And I've also talked way past the top of the hour, which I will have to fix. This is WVLP 103.1 FM, Valparaiso, Indiana. I'm Ken the Metal Professor, returning you back to mostly metal. The rest of this hour will be bands that are appearing at Prog Power USA in Atlanta, Georgia later this week and into next weekend. Usually I go to this every year, but not this year, so I'm very, very sad. So this is me experiencing Prog Power a bit vicariously, kicking off with Voyager off of their newest disc, Ghost Smile. This is What a Wonderful Day.